Okay, so last reading in quantitative methods is technical analysis. So it is a small reading. It only gives you an introduction to technical analysis. Uh, we wouldn't be going into much of details into that, and would try keeping it simple. So before we understand technical analysis, let's do some contrast with, or let's learn some contrast between technical analysis and fundamental analysis. So there are key ways or two major ways in which you can conduct financial analysis or stock analysis or asset price analysis or return analysis. One is technical analysis and second is fundamental analysis. Technical analysis is the analysis in which you focus on past data like prices and volumes. So means historical stock prices or asset prices and the volumes of trade. And you are actually analyzing the demand and supply of the asset, that how much is the demand in the market and how much is the supply of a particular stock or any other asset. Fundamental analysis is the one in which you focus on the fundamentals, past and present data of fundamentals. And what do we mean by fundamentals? By fundamentals we mean particularly financial statements. That is, if I look at the financial statements and I perform analysis of growth, profitability, ratio analysis and all that, that is a part of fundamental analysis. And if I look at the past stock prices and the volumes being trading in the market, that is technical analysis. So fundamental analysis is usually focused on long term. So when you want to find out the long term investment, or you are analyzing investment for long term, fundamental analysis is generally used. Technical analysis usually helps you analyze sentiment. So generally sentiment is gauged through technical analysis. So this is the key difference between technical analysis and fundamental analysis. Remember the keywords: prices and volumes, demand and supply of a stock, sentiment, gauging sentiment using past data. Now moving on, and also application is that technical analysis is generally used by traders and fundamental analysis is generally used by equity research analysts. So equity research department or equity research analyst would find out the stocks that should be bought or sold, and then traders would be deciding when to buy what and when to sell what, and for that they will be using technical analysis. So fundamental analysis can help decide the universe in which you want to trade, and then what to trade, what to buy, what to sell, and how do you keep on buying and selling. That is on daily basis, that is done through, or that is analyzed through technical analysis. Now moving on, this reading is focused on technical analysis. So, and gives you an introduction to technical analysis, that how is it used. So when we talk about technical analysis, there are three key types of technical analysis. You can do it through charts, through oscillators, and through non-price indicators. Oscillators are also known as price-based indicators. These are some formulas, these are some ratios, these are some numbers which are calculated, or some indicators which are calculated using the historical prices or current prices in the market. So using price and volume data from the market. And there are some other indicators which do not use pricing data but helps you analyze the or gauge the sentiment of the overall market. Those are non-price indicators. And then charts. So starting with charts, when we talk about charts, there can be different types of charts. So you should know what types of charts are used, and you should know how are they actually used. So starting with first one, which is line chart. Line chart simply means plotting a line. So for example, if I plot stock prices of the, let's say, of past 1 year, 2 years, 6 months or whatever period, if I just plot the stock prices through a line chart, that is known as line chart. That is, I plot all the points and then I connect them through a line. That is known as line chart. Another way of making a chart is bar chart. That is, instead of drawing this line, so when I draw this line, maybe I select only closing prices, or maybe I select only opening prices, or maybe I select only midday prices. Generally closing prices are used. But during the day, the stock would have been opened at some other price and would have closed at another price, and maybe there is volatility during the day, that open and ending prices or the opening and closing prices are very different. So maybe there is a stock which closes nearly at the same price, which means its price does not move much, but during the day there is high volatility. That is, maybe during the day it goes up and it goes down significantly. So how do you capture that volatility? In order to capture that daily volatility, you use bar charts. So in bar charts, instead of plotting the line, you plot bars. So you plot a bar in which you have a closing price, in which you have an opening price. So opening can be below, closing can be higher, or opening can be higher and closing can be lower. So you have opening prices and closing prices. So if you plot the bars of these prices, those are known as bar charts. And you can have a maximum and minimum price as well. So maybe some maximum price and some minimum price. So this is bar chart. Moving on to candlestick chart. So candlestick chart is similar to bar chart. In candlestick chart, you plot a maximum, you plot a minimum price for every day, and then you plot closing and opening. So let's say maybe this is closing price and this is opening price, and you make a candle kind of shape. This is known as candlestick chart. The key difference between candlestick chart and bar chart would be that candlestick chart is either colored or clear. So if I make this bar, I can either color it or keep it clear. So if I keep it clear, that means closing price is higher than opening price. If closing price is higher than opening price, you keep it clear. Otherwise, if let's say opening price is higher than closing price, that is, if stock price is falling, then you color it. So if you keep it clear, if it is clear, that means stock closed at a higher price or stock price increased. If it is colored, it means stock price decreased. So if you see multiple colored sections, that means the stock price is falling, and if you see multiple clear sections, that means the stock price is going up. So overall trend is upward. This is candlestick chart.
On y-axis we got prices.
On y-axis you have got yes, prices.
And on x?
Time period. So daily, for example, first day, second day, third day, fourth day, fifth day, sixth day, and so on. Daily, weekly, monthly, or whatever it is. Generally daily. So generally all the charts are plotted for daily prices. So this is line, bar, and candlestick chart. Similarly, there is another chart type of chart which is known as point and figure chart, in which you either plot a cross or you plot a circle. So how do you do this? So this is a point figure chart. So if you see, these are crosses, these are circles, and then crosses again. So each cross represents increase in price and each circle represents decrease in price. So if price is increasing, you continue to plot X or mark X. When price starts decreasing, you show it with a circle. And then when it starts increasing again cross, and then when it starts decrease again circle. So as you change from cross to circle or circle to cross, that means the direction of the stock price has changed. It was going up here, going down, and now going up, then going down, then up, then down, up, down, and so on. So when direction changes, you move from cross to circle or circle to cross. And otherwise, as it continues to increase, you continue to plot X or circle. So again, you have price on y-axis and time or days on x-axis, and there can be different directions. So you can either have months, or you can have days, or you can have weeks, or whatever you want to look at, but generally it is daily. So this is point and figure chart, and this is candlestick chart that we discussed. So clear, if you look at clear sections, when the stock price is going up, bars are clear. Why? Because we make a clear bar when stock price is going up. When stock price is going down, bars are colored. So remember this as well. Moving on, relative strength analysis. So relative strength analysis is the one in which you plot a chart, but you do not plot a chart in isolation, but in comparison with some other benchmark. So for example, if I have Procter & Gamble and I have S&P 500 index, if I plot Procter & Gamble's line chart, that is a simple line chart. But if instead of that I plot its movement against SPX, that how is it moving against SPX, or what is its percentage, what is P&G's value as a percentage of SPX, then that is known as relative strength. So if that chart is going up, it means that P&G is going up in comparison to S&P 500 index. That is, if S&P 500 index goes up 100, P&G would be going up 120, 130. That is, it is outperforming the index. And if it goes down, it does not necessarily mean that stock is falling. Maybe stock is still rising, but it is underperforming the benchmark. So this is the relative strength chart is the one in which you draw the chart in relation to some other benchmark or index or stock. So if it goes up, that means it is outperforming, and if it goes down, that means it is underperforming. And then I can select another stock, let's say Clorox, and I can plot its relative strength chart as well against SPX, and then I can compare these two, that which one is outperforming or which one is underperforming. So this is known as relative strength chart. So if a stock is going up, let's say PG, it does not necessarily mean that company is performing well. Maybe there is some other competitor or some other benchmark which is going up even higher. So if let's say market goes up 25% and stock goes up only 5%, that means the stock is underperforming. It does not mean that the stock is doing good. So you do not look at performance in isolation, but you compare performance with broader market or with competitors or with the industry, and hence you use relative strength analysis or relative strength chart. Any problem questions so far? Okay, moving on, trend line. So what is trend line? If let's say there is an uptrend, stock is moving like this. This is a line chart. If I draw a trend over it, or if I draw a straight line to show this trend, that line is known as trend line. The assumption is that if stock price is above this trend line, it will fall. If it is below this trend line, it will increase. If the trend continues, or as long as the trend continues, this line is known as trend line, and this pattern is known as upward pattern. So if stock price is increasing, this is known as upward trend, and if stock price is falling, that is known as down trend. So in this uptrend, this upward trend line is drawn by joining the bottoms of price chart. So how do we draw this uptrend line? By joining the bottoms of stock price chart. On the other hand, if you want to make a downtrend line is made by joining the tops of the stock price chart. This is known as trend, downtrend, and this is known as uptrend. So when you make uptrend line, you join bottoms. When you make downtrend line, you join tops. Any problem so far? Then there are two other key terminologies, breakout and breakdown. So let's say there is a stock price which is stable, and suddenly it breaks into an uptrend. So a stock price breaking into an uptrend from a stable trend or from a downward trend is known as breakout. Breakout means that the price has entered into an uptrend, or have changed its trend from stability or downtrend to an uptrend. This turnaround is known as breakout. So this is the breakout. What is breakdown? If a stock price is, let's say, a stable or an uptrend, and then it starts falling or enters into a downtrend, that is known as breakdown, and this point is known as breakdown point. Breakout means a bullish trend is about to start, and breakdown point means that a bearish trend is about to start. By bearish we mean market is falling, and by bullish we mean it is going up. So this is breakout and breakdown. Remember the difference between the two, breakout and breakdown. Out means entering uptrend and it is bullish. Down means entering downtrend and it is bearish. Any problem?
If the market crashes, so
It's a breakdown.
but
Breakdown.
breakdown not necessarily means only market is crashing.
No, breakdown can be for any stock or any asset or any market. It can be at market level or it can be at asset level. So if a particular asset has entered a downtrend suddenly, you say that it has entered breakdown, or you say that this is the breakdown point. Or if you think that now downtrend is about to start, you can say that this is the breakdown point and now downtrend will start. So breakdown is that point at which it changes the direction or it enters a downtrend, and breakout is that point at which it enters an uptrend, and then it can continue or again turn around or whatever happen. So moving on to support and resistance. So let's say there is a stock which moves in a particular pattern. It goes up, goes down, goes up again, and goes down again, and so on. So if you look into it, it looks like that every time it touches this point, it falls back. So it looks like this is the maximum point that it reaches, and every time it touches this bottom, it turns around. So if you think that there is a point after which stock will rebound or the price will rebound or fall back again, and there is a point at which it will rebound, it will turn around and enter into a breakout trend or will again start increasing, this is known as resistance and support. So this top or the maximum price after which you think that stock price will fall back or rebound is known as resistance, and this minimum price at which you think that it will start going up or it will rebound is known as support. So this is support, this is resistance. When a stock reaches resistance, you sell. When a stock reaches support, you buy. So you buy at support and sell at resistance. And so this is just an example. Maybe you have a resistance and support in uptrend. So maybe a stock price is going up and this is how it is going up. So if you look into it, this is resistance and this is support. So you can make a resistance and support, extend it, and then if it reaches here, you sell it. If it reaches here, you buy it. So within a trend, there can be support and resistance as well. It does not mean that the price is stable. In an upward trend or downward trend, and within that you can have resistance and support as well. Any problem so far? So when we talk about trends, building further on trends or patterns, there are two key types of patterns: continuation and reversal. Continuation pattern is the one in which the stock is expected to continue its pattern. Reversal is the one in which pattern is expected to be reversed. So one of the key examples of reversal pattern is head and shoulder pattern. So what do we mean by head and shoulder? And remember this again terminology and its type because it is important. What do we mean by head and shoulder? Head and shoulder is a specific pattern in which stock goes up, falls to a particular baseline, then goes up even higher, then falls to that baseline, then goes up again and then falls to that falls below that baseline. So if you look into it, this is head, these two are shoulders, and this is neckline. So this pattern is known as head and shoulder pattern. A head and shoulder pattern means that if it has reached a head, it will fall to neckline, then again reach shoulder, and then again fall below neckline. And the assumption is that that it will fall below neckline with the same magnitude as it went up the neckline. So if this distance was $2, it will fall $2 below neckline. Or if this distance was $5, it will fall $5 below neckline. So the target price, next target price would be neckline minus head minus neckline. So target next, if let's say this neckline is 27 and this head is 37, so it went up $10 from neckline. Now the assumption is that target price would be, next target would be $10 below neckline. So currently neckline is 27 and now next target would be 27 minus 37 minus 27, which is $17. So target price would be $17. This is the assumption. It might reach there, it might not reach there, it might turn around, it might enter a breakout, or anything can happen. But this is the general assumption that if a head and shoulder pattern is formed, generally the price falls falls below neckline with the same magnitude as it went up above neckline. Any problem so far? And there can be other examples as well for reversal pattern, like double top, triple top, double bottom, triple bottom. So double top is that if its stock price goes up and goes down, then if it goes up again and starts falling, this is known as double top. And if this happens 3 times, this is known as triple top. Yes, would be known as triple top. That is, it has formed a resistance at this particular level. It goes up there and then falls again. Then it goes up there and falls again, and then goes up there and falls again. It is not breaching that point or not passing beyond there. So this is known as a top. And when this top is reached twice, that is known as double top. And when this top is reached thrice, that is known as triple top. Similarly, if you talk about bottoms, it will be known as double bottom or triple bottom. That is, it reaches a particular bottom and then rebounds. So if there are 2 bottoms, that is double bottom, and if there are 3 bottoms, that is triple bottom.
So we sell it shoulder and head both.
Sorry?
We sell it shoulder and head.
So in double top or triple top, you do not have shoulder or head. It is the same level. In shoulder and head, there are different levels. So shoulder is at a different level, head is at a different level. We call it double top if there is no head, if there are only shoulders, or if there are 2 heads. So means going up, going down, and then going up again and going down. So both tops are at the same level. In head and shoulder, it goes up, falls slightly, then goes up even higher, then falls, and then goes up, and then falls. So this is head and shoulder, a particular pattern in which you have 2 tops, 3 tops, but one of them is higher than the other 2. Here you have all the tops at the same level. So you call it double top. In head and shoulder, you can sell it maybe at shoulder, or you can sell it at head, or you can sell it at neckline. And this is the target. You assume the target is 17. And in double top, you sell it near top. So whenever it reaches the top, you sell it because you think that it will fall again. And double top is being formed. That is some introduction to reversal patterns. Continuation patterns are the one in which you expect the pattern to continue, or a particular pattern continues. So for example, if let's say there is a stock which moves like this, or let's just do it through the actual chart, that will be better. Yes, so it moves like this. So if you look into it, it is moving into a particular trend with a particular pattern in which triangles are being formed. This is known as triangle pattern. That is, it is moving in a particular pattern that is forming a triangle. So it is forming triangles one after another. This is known as triangle pattern. Or maybe it moves in a way that it forms a rectangle. This is known as rectangle pattern. And from this rectangle, if it breaks out, that is known as bullish rectangle. And from this rectangle, if it breaks down, that is known as bearish rectangle. So bullish means it goes up and bearish means it is falling. And this pattern is known as rectangle pattern. And if it is a bullish rectangle, then you expect it to go up. And if it is a bearish rectangle, you expect it to go down. So this is bullish rectangle and bearish rectangle or triangle patterns. So there can be many types of patterns, only some of them are shown here. And you can have moving averages. So by moving averages mean, for example, 10-day moving average, 20-day, 30-day, that is taking the average of past 10-day, 20-day, 30-day and plotting its price. So if instead of plotting the simple line chart, if I plot the moving averages, that is known as moving average graph. 10-day, 20-day, 30-day, whatever it is. Now if I have, let's say, moving average graph, this is my moving average curve or line. If I draw another line which is moving average plus particular standard deviation, let's say 2 standard deviation, 1 standard deviation or whatever, and I plot another line which is moving average minus some standard deviation. Now I have formed a band. So this is moving average, this is an upper band and this is a lower band. These bands are known as Bollinger Bands. So again the assumption is that if it touches the upper Bollinger Band you sell, and if it touches the lower Bollinger Band then you buy. And this is known as Bollinger Bands, in which you draw a moving average line with some standard deviations plus and minus. And if this distance between Bollinger Bands increases, it means volatility is increasing or risk is increasing. Volatility is risk, so it means risk is increasing. So this is Bollinger Bands. Any confusion so far? This is done. This is done. Trend line, breakout, breakdown, support, resistance, change in polarity. So if a stock is going up and then it changes trend to a downtrend, that is known as change in polarity. Similarly, if it is going down and then starts and enters into a new trend, that is known as change in polarity. So, or simply when old resistance becomes new support. So this is the resistance, this is the support, and then if it goes up and start moving like this was earlier it was resistance, but now it is support and a new resistance is formed. This is known as change in polarity. So these are examples of trend lines. So when you form a uptrend line, you join bottoms. When you form a downtrend line, you join tops. Reversal pattern done. Continuation done. Moving averages done. Bollinger Bands done. $60-day moving average, 20-day moving average. So if you look into it, you have 60-day moving average, you have 20-day moving average, and you have normal stock price. This is simple moving average. This is not Bollinger Band. So you have plotted a 60-day moving average, and you have also plotted a 20-day moving average. So 20-day moving average would be nearer to the price. 60-day moving average would be at some distance. And if I make 90-day moving average, that will be even farther. Because if I take average of last 20-day prices, that will be closer. If I take average of last 60-day prices, that will be a bit farther than the current price, or wouldn't be a true reflective of current scenario. And so the both will be moving in different direction. The point at which a lower day moving average crosses a higher day moving average, that point is known as golden cross. So if your lower day moving average crosses higher day moving average, that is known as, and goes above it, that is known as golden cross. That means an uptrend is being formed. Your recent prices are giving you a higher average compared to older prices. So if lower day moving average passes above higher day moving average, that is known as golden cross. Similarly, if lower day moving average passes below higher day moving average, that is known as dead cross. Dead cross is a sign of bearish movement, and golden cross is a sign of bullish movement. When a golden cross happens, that reflects that a bullish trend is being formed, and when a dead cross happens, that reflects that a bearish trend is about to begin. That is, recent prices are showing are decreasing compared to older prices. So remember these terms as well: golden cross and dead cross. Again, how do you buy or sell? If your price goes above moving average, you sell it. If your price goes below moving average, you buy it. And this is known as contrarian strategy. Contrarian strategy is buy when others sell and sell when others buy. So if it is going up, that means others are everyone is buying it, so you should sell. And when it is going down, that means everyone is selling it, so you should buy. That is contrarian strategy. So you can plot moving average with any number of days: 60 day, 20 day, 30 day, 90 day, whatever. So if, for example, I plot on 20-day average, moving average, it will be something like this. Now if this is 20 day, if let's say that I also plot a 60-day moving average, and let's say that 60 day comes out to be like this, and something like this. This is 60 day. So I started when 60 day was higher than 20 day or lower, whatever. Now they both started moving. There came a point at which 20-day moving average went above 60-day moving average. This point at which it crosses the higher day moving average, so 60 is higher and 20 is lower. So when this lower day moving average crosses higher day moving average to go above it, that point is known as golden cross. Means an uptrend is being formed, or a bullish trend is being formed. Why? Because recent average is higher than older average. So recent prices are higher compared to older prices. Then if this lower day moving average falls below higher day moving average, then that point is known as dead cross. So golden cross when lower day moving average goes above higher day moving average, and dead cross when lower day moving average goes below higher day moving average. This crossing point is known as golden cross or dead cross. And then if I make bands over it, that is, if I add 2 standard deviation above, 2 standard deviation below, that is known as Bollinger Bands. So both these are examples of Bollinger Bands. So that was about price charts or charts being used as a tool for technical analysis. Next is oscillators. So we will only discuss some important oscillators, some key oscillators, their names and their definitions. Some of the key types of oscillators are ROC, RSI, MACD, stochastic. But before we go on, oscillator, there can be two types of oscillator: convergence and divergence. We call an oscillator to be showing convergence when it shows same pattern as prices. So when we think that current pattern will continue, that is known as convergence. And when we think that current pattern will not continue, or the future pattern will be different from current pattern or past pattern, that is known as divergence. Divergence means changing the trend or change in pattern. Convergence means continuing the trend. So oscillators help you analyze whether a particular trend is continuing or is changing. So as soon as it starts changing, oscillator will start showing you some variation or some change. So for example, ROC, rate of change, it tells you the speed at which a variable changes over a specific period of time. So it is change in one variable with respect to another, that how much is a specific variable changing. RSI, relative strength index. So in order to calculate RSI, you first calculate RS, relative strength. What is relative strength? Relative strength is average of X days. By X days can be 14 days, 7 days or 10 days, whatever. So for example, average of 7 days up closes divided by average of 7 days down closes. Up close means a stock price closing up, and down close means stock price closing down. So if you take average of up closes and average of down closes and take their ratio, that is known as relative strength. So it will tell you how many times that it closed up, or how what was the magnitude of down closes. A comparison of these two would tell you relative strength. Then in order to calculate relative strength index, you take 100 and subtract 100 divided by 1 plus relative strength. And when you calculate it, it gives you RSI, relative strength index. It tells you magnitude of recent gains to recent losses, that how much what is the magnitude of recent gains compared to recent losses. Now this RSI can range between 0 and 100. Generally it is assumed if it is less than 30, then market is assumed to be, or the stock is assumed to be oversold. It reflects that market has overreacted, investors have overreacted, and stock is oversold. And if it is oversold, that means it is a buy, it will increase in future. If it is greater than 70, it is assumed to be overbought. But then again, these are just some benchmarks. When you are analyzing it, you should also look at the past or historic relative strength. Maybe there is a stock which always is oversold, or maybe there is something which have been overbought for a very long period of time. So that is relative strength index, RSI. And I think within these, most used one would be RSI in practical market. MACD, moving average convergence divergence. So what do you do in it? You take exponential moving average, and again when you take exponential moving average, you can take it with higher days or lower days. So moving average can be calculated using a higher number of days or lower number of days. So if you calculate both with one with higher number of days and another with lower number of days, and if you take their difference, that is higher minus lower day moving average, that is known as moving average convergence divergence, MACD. So it tells you that how much is it converging or diverging. If this difference is increasing, that means there is a divergence trend, or the moving average difference is diverging. If both of these are if this difference is decreasing, that means both of them are converging and there is a convergence trend. So MACD tells you moving average convergence and divergence, that how much is moving average converging or diverging. So what do you do then? So you plot MACD. You plot a line of MACD that tells you the difference between higher and lower. If it is increasing, that means there is a divergence, and if it is decreasing, that means there is convergence. So you plot a line, and then you plot another line which is the moving average of this MACD. So MACD is the difference between two moving averages, and then if you take moving average of this MACD itself and you plot it, that is known as moving average of MACD. Now what you do is you buy when MACD falls below signal line, and this line is known as signal line. So this is, let's say, your MACD, and if you plot its moving average, that is known as signal line. So if MACD falls below signal line, you buy. If MACD goes above signal line, you sell. So this is moving average convergence divergence, and what you do is you first calculate convergence divergence, but calculating it is not enough. Then you take its own moving average and plot it, and then you take the same approach, that if it falls below, you buy. If it goes up, you sell. Moving on, stochastic oscillator compares a security's closing price to its price range over a given period of time. That you take, you select a particular period of time. On that particular period of time, for that particular period of time, you take out the price range, that what is the range at which price moves, and then you compare current closing price with that range. That is it towards the higher end, is it towards the lower end, is it in between, or what is happening. That is known as stochastic oscillator. So remember these oscillators ROC, RSI, MACD and stochastic. Key point to note, another key point to note is that oscillators are those indicators which are based on market prices. So in all of these you are using market price to analyze the future movement or predict the future movement or analyze the past movement. So market price is being used to analyze the patterns. So if any indicator uses market price to analyze pattern or movement, that is known as oscillator. Other indicators which do not use market price are known as non-price based indicators. So remember, oscillators and non-price based indicators are two different things. So we have charts to analyze, we have oscillators, and then we have non-price based indicators. What are non-price based indicators? Some of those discussed here are put call ratio. So what is put? Put is the option to sell and call is the option to buy. If I have a put call ratio, I have put in numerator and call in denominator. If put call ratio is increasing, that means investors are demanding more puts than calls. So if they are demanding more puts than calls, that means they are bearish about future because they are demanding more options to sell than options to buy. So if it increases, that is a bearish signal. Then next is VIX, and it is quite often used in US or quite frequently used in US or one of the key indicators of market risk. VIX is volatility of options on S&P 500 index. So if you have options on S&P 500 index and if you take or estimate their volatility, it is known as VIX, and there is an index for VIX, so you can Google it and you can find out the overall VIX movement. So if volatility on these options increases, that means risk associated with S&P 500 index is increasing or market risk is increasing. And if volatility decreases, that means market risk is decreasing. So if VIX goes up, that means market risk is going up. If VIX goes down, market risk is going down. So if you look into it, in 2008, VIX shot up very high in crisis time. And obviously these are options, so they are futuristic. They would move before the market moves. So they are an indicator of sentiment. So all these put call ratio, VIX, these are indicator of sentiment. So they would tell you that what is the sentiment about future movement. Maybe market crashes later, but VIX would move up earlier because that is the sentiment, that is the gauge for sentiment. Then you have margin debt. So when investors take positions or make investments, they can make investments with two sources of capital, equity and debt. And quite often, debt is a particular percentage of the overall amount. That is known as margin position or margin debt position. So for example, if I am making an investment and I keep, for example, 70% as debt and 30% as equity, this is a margin debt position or margin position. Why? Because I have taken some debt for that investment. If this margin debt is going up, that means investors are borrowing money. Increase in is bearish. If this margin debt goes up, that means investors are borrowing money to invest. And if they are borrowing money to invest, that means they are very positive about future. They think market will go up. So if margin debt increases, that is a bullish signal. It means that investors expect the market to go up in future. Then short interest ratio. So what is short interest ratio? Short interest ratio is a ratio of short interest to volume. So if you compare short interest with volumes and you take a ratio of those, that is known as short interest ratio. Now the question is that what is short interest? Short interest is a measure of short positions. That is how many short positions are there in the market, or what is the magnitude of short position. And what is a short position? Short position means to sell something which you do not own. So for example, there is a party A and there is a stock X. A thinks that X price will fall in future. X is currently trading at $100. A thinks that X will fall in future. But A does not have X. So what A do is that A goes to B. B has an asset X with it. So A goes to B, borrows X from B, goes to market and sell it for $100 today. A did not have X, but A borrowed it from B and sold it in market for $100. So A did not make any investment at all and sold it for $100. And let's say that it borrowed it for 1 week. Now when 1 week ends, let's say price have dropped to $90. So A buys back at $90 from market and returns it to B. This is known as a short sell. That is, A expected price to go down, so A borrowed and sold it, and then A went to market, bought it again when the price dropped and returned it to B. This is known as short sell, and this position is known as short position. So if A has a short position, that is known as short interest. So if number of short positions are increasing or magnitude of short position are increasing, that will increase short interest, and that will increase short interest ratio. So if short interest ratio is increasing, that means investors are taking short position. If investors are taking short positions, that means market sentiment is bearish. Why? Because if they are taking short position, that means they expect market to fall. Then moving on, mutual funds cash position. Any confusion so far up till here? So it is mostly theory or all theory. Mutual funds cash position. So when, let's say there is a mutual fund and that mutual funds invest in equity markets for example. So generally mutual funds do not invest whole of the money in a market, but they keep some cash with them for liquidity purposes. So let's say there is a mutual fund which invests 90% in equity and keeps 10% as cash. Let's say after some time this mutual fund has reduced investment in equity. It is only investing 50% in equity and keeping 10% as cash. So that means, keeping 50% as cash. So that means cash position has increased. If cash position has increased, that means it has reduced investment in market. And when it has reduced investment in market, that is a signal that it is expecting market to fall. So when mutual funds cash position increases, that is a bearish signal. New equity issuance. If new equity is being issued in the market or if IPOs are being made, that is a signal that market is expected to go up or is bullish. Why? Because IPOs are generally done in the times when high valuations are being offered in the market. You only issue capital into the market when you think that you will get a very good price or higher than normal price. So new equity issuance, increase in new equity issuance generally is a bullish signal, but there is a catch in it. Remember that this is a bullish market, so new equity issuance happens in bullish market, but after that it generally follows a bearish market. Why? Because when new equity issuance happens, generally it is assumed that market is overvalued. Why? Because new equity issuance generally happen in bullish market which is overvalued. So as it is overvalued, there is a chance that it will correct itself and eventually fall. That is, and future of this market would be bearish. So when you are attempting the question, make sure you get the question right. What is it actually trying to ask? If it is trying to ask about, if it is telling you that that pace of new equity issuance has increased, what will be the future direction of the market, then you should call it bearish and not bullish, because there will be correction in future. Then trends or arms index. So trends and arms index is basically a ratio of volume of shares which are going up divided by volume which is going down. How do you calculate it? It is number of advancing issues divided by number of declining issues. Advancing means going up, declining means going down, divided by volume of advancing issues divided by volume of declining issues. So it is simply a kind of a ratio of advancing to declining issues. If volume of advancing is higher compared to volume of declining, that is a bullish trend, and if volume of advancing is lower compared to volume of declining, that is a bearish trend. So if arms index, this is known as arms index and another name is trend. If this trend or arms index is greater than 1, that is bearish. If it is less than 1, that is bullish. So remember this: greater than 1 bearish, less than 1 bullish. Why? Because it is number of advancing issues divided by number of declining divided by volume of advancing divided by volume of declining. So if I take the ratio, it will be number of advancing divided by volume of advancing multiplied by number of declining divided by volume of declining. So if it is greater than 1, that means the ratio of or the number of advancing issues with respect to volume are higher compared to number of declining with respect to volume of declining. And if it is less than 1, sorry, if it is greater than 1, that means if it is greater than 1, that means this volume of advancing is lower. If this volume is lower, then overall it will be higher. And if it is less than 1, that means this volume is higher. So if this volume is higher, if it is less than 1, that is bullish. And if this volume is lower and it is greater than 1, that is bearish. So key point to remember is that greater than 1 is assumed to be bearish, less than 1 is assumed to be bullish. Okay, so these are some non-price based indicators, and which helps you analyze that when is a market bearish, when is it bullish. So you should know that when is it bearish or when is it bullish, or what shows a bearish market, what shows a bullish market. And last section discusses cycles and waves. So it simply tells you that financial markets move in the form of cycles. So there is a every uptrend is followed by a downtrend, and every downtrend is followed by an uptrend. So it does not, market never move into one direction. It moves in the form of cycles. The period of this cycle can vary, maybe 6 year, 10 year, 2 year, whatever, but it moves in cycles. And this theory is known as Elliott wave theory, that market moves in the form of waves. There are ups and there are ups and there are downs, and it continues to move in the form of waves. So financial market prices can be described as an interconnected set of cycles. And when we say financial market, we mean overall market in which there are different asset classes. There will be equity, there will be fixed income, there will be commodity. And if we want to understand the relationship of these with each other, that is known as intermarket analysis. Intermarket analysis means that studying relationship of one market with another market. It can be between asset classes, it can be between countries, or it can be between any types of markets. So this is it about technical analysis. Fairly straightforward topic.